Welcome to Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Casey Porter here. Wow, what a struggle last night was. And the Dodgers, hey, to put it point blank, listening to Dave Roberts talk, this is a team that understands just how urgent these games are. And one thing, I got to thinking last night as the game was coming to an end, and yes, but Max Muncy hit a home run. Yes, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run, and Shohei Ohtani's actually been fantastic. He's striking out too much, but he's been absolutely awesome. Hasn't been. So the two things I think you could say about Shohei is that he hasn't hit in the clutch times, and then also he's striking out too much. But beyond that, he actually has been a lot better than. It just feels like Shohei Ohtani has been struggling lately to me, but when I actually looked it up and researched it, he's actually been the exact opposite of what I expected to see. So yes, you did get the home run from Shohei Ohtani. Yes, you did get the home run from Max Muncy. Those are what I call garbage buckets. I take nothing from those periods of time. Yes, you did get to Kenley Jansen. So whenever you lose like this and you're in a situation to where you are probably not going to win the game, and we kind of saw Dave make that concession whenever he took out Freddie Freeman. Although, I will say this, I've been bitching and moaning about getting Dalton Rushing some more at-bats. That's the perfect way to do it. And I totally trust Dalton Rushing to be able to do something like that. And, hey, Kalana boy, thank you so much for joining on the TikTok side. We have a good crowd logging in on YouTube. I have zero problems with I've mentioned, so there's two parts to this issue about taking Freddie Freeman out and putting Dalton Rushing in. One is that I've been bitching and moaning that you've got to find creative ways to keep Dalton Rushing fresh, get him more at-bats. He's looked, and also that hit up the middle that he had, on Sunday, that was the most comfortable I mentioned that he had looked since basically he had been promoted from AAA. And so you try to piggyback off of that, give him some more at-bats right after that at-bat, and see if he can stay hot. So I have zero issues with Dave taking Freddie Freeman out in that situation. Putting in Dalton Rushing, I think you're killing two birds with one stone. And yes, there is a certain amount of admission that this game is likely a game you're not going to win. But why wouldn't he think that? The offense has been anemic for now almost a month and a half. And so there's a couple of layers to that we just talked about. You got to get Freddie Freeman off his feet from time to time. You just have to do it. He's getting older to keep him fresh. You got to find ways to get Dalton Rushing at bats. And then also, I really feel like the Dodgers are peaking themselves for San Diego. So the worst you can do is be behind one game going into the San Diego series, which is terrible. But you got to figure, I know that the Angels, and I mentioned if the Dodgers play as well as they should, I mentioned on the last show I was on, they should win all three games of the Angels series, and I stand behind that. They're a better team than the Angels. They have not shown that. They are not playing good, and the Angels are kicking their ass. And so give the Angels credit for that, and definitely give Soriano credit. So I have no problems with Freddie Freeman coming out because there's so many different layers. I think you're peaking Freddie Freeman for both the Padres series, and then now I think we have to start saying, hopefully, a playoff series as we move on, because it's not guaranteed at this point, because if you don't beat the Padres, there's a whole lot of wild card teams that can come up and sneak up and bite you. So I know that was one of the big narratives about, that being a situation to where Freddie Freeman came out. And then also a couple of the last two nights of press conferences are really polarizing from Dave Roberts, because if you like Dave Roberts and you like to support him and you think he is the right guy for the job, like we all do, I could say that confidently here at Dodgers Dogs as part of the Dodgers Daily Network, you appreciate the candor that he's come out with. I don't take it as him calling out players. I take it as him setting a standard. Hey, this is the standard of Dodgers baseball, and we're not playing up to those standards. And whenever we have a standard, I'm going to go ahead and tell it like it is. That's how I see that as leadership. I see that as, hey, this is just how it is. If you don't like it, get a little bit tougher, get better. I see it, I personally view that as good leadership. If you don't like Dave Roberts, I think you're probably seeing that as him just cherry picking certain guys that he wants to call out and throw under the bus and this and that. I don't see it that way. in any way, shape, or form. I think Dave Roberts is setting a tone that, hey, this is not good. It's been not good for way too long. We've got to get it fixed, and we have to have a sense of urgency to do it with. And like Max Muncy said, last night's loss, there's no way to sugarcoat it. Last night's loss, simply put, was just a bad loss. There's really nothing to take away from it. And I will say this, call it an excuse, call it whatever you want. It is what it is. I call it, it's reality. I really think Sunday night's loss and just the historic badness of the way that you lost that game to the Blue Jays, 13 walks, 10 hits since 1982, that you've had 10 and 10 with walks and hits that you were able to accrue and still lost the game. I think there was some hangover last night, and I think Sunday night's loss, as historic as it was at the time, I think it beat you twice. I think the Dodgers came in flat last night. They came in still reeling from the crappiness of losing that game Sunday night, and they were just simply flat. So how do you there's a saying in baseball that momentum is the next day's starting pitcher. So what the Dodgers really needed last night, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, and I know you're trying your hardest, and I know that you want to do your best, but point blank, whenever you're getting paid with the contract that you are getting paid, Yoshinobu Yamamoto, to be the stopper, to be next day's momentum yesterday. Literally yesterday's game, plus the playoffs, but the scenario for a regular season game is literally exactly why the Dodgers got Yoshinobu Yamamoto, to be the stopper. So momentum is only tomorrow, the next day's pitcher. So what the Dodgers needed after losing that historically bad game on Sunday, what they needed was Yoshinobu Yamamoto, probably the ace of their staff, to take the damn ball. He'd had the ball. I mean, he got backed up a day like he likes, okay, and go out and give the team courage. There's a saying that pitching gives you courage. Go out there and give up one run, maybe even 2 runs, whatever it may be. Hand over the ball in the 6th or 7th inning in a position to where the Dodgers have got past that hangover, right? They've gotten past that hangover, and now they're ready to go and win the game in the late innings, which if that would have happened, maybe then the Shohei Ohtani home run and the Max Muncy home run in the 8th might have mattered. The way it played out, those are garbage buckets. So I'm going to say this point blank. Y'all can be a little bit more difficult on me if you want. Definitely have a different opinion. Leave it in the chat. And if you're in the TikTok side, Dominique, thank you so much. Switch, thank you so much. Hey, Efren Duran, thank you so much for joining. Fonza Lee, thank you so much. Make sure and keep leaving comments on the TikTok side. That way we can keep this chat active and we do not get kicked off, and we get to keep the TikTok side going. So I'm going to say it point blank, super, super duper disappointed in Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Just absolutely disappointed. And the thing is that his fastball wasn't located very well, and because of that, it got hit. The average exit velo on his 4-seam fastball was over 100 miles an hour, and then his splitter just wasn't being thrown for a strike. And then whenever he actually did throw a splitter for a strike, Mike Trout ambushed it. You saw the ambush by Nito on the 4-seam fastball early in the game for the home run. He rarely threw a splitter for a strike, but then when he did, the Mike Trout nailed it. And then his curveball was probably his best pitch, although he gave up 3 hits on that. So they're outings like this with Yamamoto when you go, he only threw his splitters for a strike like 28%, but then like one of the few splitters he threw for a strike, Mike Trout swings at it and gets a base hit off of it. It just makes you want to, at least with the splitter, it just makes you think that man, something's going on there to where the other team might know it's coming. I'm not saying that overall that Yamamoto's tipping pitches, but it sure seems like he's tipping his splitter. Now, that's just tinfoil out in the weeds. That's Area 51 stuff because I have no inside information on that. But just when you look at it, and when you throw a splitter that has such a devastating pitch and has such great movement, and it's so hard to hit, and then it's never in the strike zone. And then why? First of all, why if he's never in the strike zone with it, why is Trout swinging at it to begin with? And then how does he hit it if he doesn't know it's coming? Although Mike Trout's one of the greatest players ever to walk the face of the planet. So very disappointed in the outing from Yoshinobu Yamamoto. He was not the momentum that the Dodgers needed after the terrible loss on Sunday. He took a gas can from that loss on Sunday. Yoshinobu Yamamoto took a gas can with him and poured fuel on that fire, which was the ending of the Toronto Blue Jays series. So just not in any way, shape, or form a good outing for Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I want to introduce or thank everybody for joining and welcome everybody in, I should say, to the chat today. Yes, the ump was bad, but umps are umps. They're just human elements. You can't control that. You got to rise up, but you can't just say, I'm not disagreeing with you at all that I didn't have the splitter at all, says Fonz Lee. Totally agree with that. Julian, thank you so much for your comment. Apple user, thank you so much for the ump was bad last night too comment, but I'll say this, Yoshinobu Yamamoto is making enough money. He's got the biggest contract or whatever. He's got to be better than a bad ump. Just got to be better than that. I'm not saying that's wrong, but I am saying that you can't say that and just give into it and just be bad because an ump isn't as good as you want them to be. He's got to get better than that. So we will move on from Yamamoto, but point blank, man, I mean, when you sign that big of a contract, okay, and you're making this amount of money, then you got to produce, you got to perform. Otherwise, you're open to criticism, and he squarely deserves to be criticized for his outing last night because the Dodgers needed him. They at least needed him not to just go nuclear and do what he did last night. So if you can't tell, I'm very frustrated with the way last night went with Yoshinobu Yamamoto. Yamos never gets run support, 0 runs or 5 runs. He's taken the L. It's so frustrating that Yamamoto never gets run support, so he has to pitch so carefully and too carefully sometimes. Lucy Chin, great points, NS and Lucy Chin. Hey, Showtime LA, Casey, I know that I've been pushing for DePaula and Hope to be promoted all year, but it feels like they'll finish in Great Lakes and start next year in Tulsa, and Tibbs and Earhart look incredible. I can tell you Zach Earhart is an incredible player. I saw him at Oklahoma State. There's so many things he can do on a field. He's so competitive. He's a little guy that's not a little guy. He can play. He actually grew up an infielder, so he can play infield in a pinch if you needed him to. He can play all 3 outfield positions. He can be in the leadoff position and be the table setter. He can also hit in the 4-hole and drive in runs. Zach Earhart is an awesome baseball player. I'm not as familiar with James Tibbs III. I know he's a bigger prospect, but I think to me, the prospect rankings for those two coming over, they couldn't mean less to me because I know how good Zach Earhart is. James Tibbs III is going to have to prove it to me. But hey, they have helped turn. They haven't been the reason. I'll tell you, Eric Wedge and all the guys that are working really to get that thing back on track for the Tulsa Drillers. Those guys, Pono and all the coaches, they absolutely work. They're Blake Galen, the hitting coach. They have worked their asses off. If you see the extra work Tulsa does, it's amazing how hard that team works. So it is very rewarding to see Tulsa turn it around the way that they have and start having a good season in the second half. Actually, I think they're 5 or 6 games over 500. If they stay just like they are, they will actually make the playoffs because they will qualify for the second half. And so super excited about Tulsa. And yes, Zach Earhart and James Tibbs III have been a big part of that. So just kind of a dud last night. Very disappointing outing from Yoshinobu Yamamoto. I have zero problems with the tone that Dave Roberts is setting in the press in the press conferences, I would say. It seems like the Dodgers are putting all their eggs in the Padres basket, like the Padres will choke, like once it comes down to the Dodgers and Padres, we'll bank on the Dodgers beating the Padres, that kind of thing. And then another thing is that the Dodgers were scuffling way before the trade deadline, and not to keep rehashing, but I guess I'm going to. The Dodgers simply have gotten no bump from the trade deadline at all. I mean, like 0 bump for the trade deadline. They needed just kind of a kick in the ass, right? One thing that a trade deadline does for a team beyond just give them better players is it just gives them a little bit of or sometimes a lot of a boost. Tommy Edman gave last year's team a lot of a boost. Jack Flaherty gave last year's team a lot of a boost. Michael Kopech gave the team and the fans a lot of a boost. The Dodgers have gotten absolutely nothing out of the trip. Now, I'm not saying that'll continue. Brock Stewart could immediately go right back to the way he was before and be great against right-handers and be the asset that he's been all year as far as a major league pitcher. Alex Call could go back to being the 265, 270 hitter, getting on base and be a good player. But so far that has not happened. So far, okay, and this is not an exaggeration because I had to deal with I don't know how many comments about James Outman. Rightfully so. James Outman did not perform. I'm not saying that anybody that made this comment is wrong, okay? But so far, Alex Call has literally been James Outman. That's what he has been, okay? Alex Call has been a good defender, which James Outman was a really good defender. He's hitting 133 with an OPS of 435. So basically, you traded away James Outman, and what you've done is you brought in James Outman to replace him. So far. Now, does Alex Call have more of an upside to put the ball in play, make winning baseball plays, have a higher batting average? He should, but it has not happened so far with the Dodgers. Okay? So far, Brock Stewart, 4.91 ERA since joining the Dodgers. Okay? Not good, approaching 5. So far, Brock Stewart has been what he's always been in his major league career and not what he's been for this year and then the very, 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 very limited sample size of the previous 2 years before that. So a big problem with this is that the Dodgers have gotten just absolutely no bump for the trade deadline whatsoever. So, Lucy Chin, do you know why we keep all these outfielder prospects, never get a high leverage reliever during the trade deadline? It's because the Dodgers front office just does not like to give up prospects. A lot of times guys like me that cover prospects, we get accused of being what's called a prospect hugger. I know Tim Rogers at Dodgers 28, who does a wonderful job covering prospects, gets accused from time to time of being a prospect hugger, when actually we are the exact opposite. Tim and I want these guys traded if there's no path for them forward. The prospect huggers, and hey, this is just another disagreement in one particular issue. This is not a throw under the bus type situation or we think they suck or anything like that, because Tim Rogers and I both think the Dodgers front office is fantastic. They're the best in the business, okay? But I think, and I can say this confidently, if you're watching this, and if I'm wrong, go ahead and leave a comment and let me know I'm wrong. But I can confidently say this because I think I know Tim well enough. So I'll lump in the basket with me. We are not prospect huggers. We want these guys gone if they don't have a path. The Dodgers don't have a path for all their outfield talent. For Mike Sirota, for Zaire Hope, for Kendall George, for Josue De Paula, for Eduardo Quintero, Chris Newell, Damon Keith, now James Tibbs III, Cole Myers, Zach Earhart, okay? That's 10 right there. That doesn't even count some of the other guys that could blossom as well, or anybody at the complex. Chase Harlan could move out to the outfield if you needed to, that kind of deal. The Dodgers don't have a path for all these guys. So why not trade them? That's Lucy's question there. And my answer to that is, Lucy, is because who actually is the prospect hugger is the Dodgers front office. They are the ones that hug the prospects. One, I think, and this is just, again, Area 51 tinfoil hat type of stuff, the Yordan Alvarez situation, the O'Neill Cruz situation, Dodgers fans still will not shut up about Yordan Alvarez. The guy never even put on a Dodgers uniform. I mean, he's a DH. The Dodgers have Shohei Ohtani as a DH, basically, okay? There was no DH in the NL when they traded him. If you go back and actually do the Yordan Alvarez situation again, at the time it was the right move whenever you look at all the different variables because of the no DH, because of the lack of defense, because of just you hadn't even seen him yet, that kind of deal. O'Neill Cruz, I mean, okay, whatever. So Dodgers fans still want to harp on that. And because of that, you don't want to trade Josue De Paula, who's being called Baby Jordan, because what if he goes somewhere else and he becomes an all-star? And then you gave him up. So of the 10 guys that you have as outfielders, what if you actually give away? Not all of these guys are going to blossom. Diego Cartaya never did, right? Okay. It's taken Bobby Miller a while. So what if out of the 10 guys, 2 of them blossom, and of the 2, one of them is the one that you gave away? That puts egg on your face. So you've made other teams better while you put eggs on your face. So I think that's number 1. And number 2 is they just want to let these guys stay in the system long enough to see which one actually is going to blossom, because I say it all the time, Lucy, you never can. I never get too excited about a prospect until they show that they can make the adjustments at the AA level. I'm telling you, the AA level is the telltale, because if you can, AA level has major league talent. The Tulsa Drillers 2 years ago had the highest velo per pitch of any team in pro baseball at any level at 95 miles an hour. So is the execution perfect at the AA level? No. But the talent, many times in a 6-game series, you're going to be facing, from a talent perspective, major league fastballs, major league breaking stuff, major league this and that. Yes, not major league execution all the time. But if you show that you can make the adjustments at the AA level, you are a major league player, in my opinion. So until I see that from players, I'm never convinced that they are a major league player. So I think the Dodgers want to hold on to these guys until they see if they can make the AA adjustments. Chris Newell is starting to. Damon Keith has not done that yet. Cole Myers still incomplete, hasn't played enough. We haven't seen enough of Zach Earhart or James Sid. As a matter of fact, you just got them in. And then your younger guys, Quintero and DePaula and Zaire Hope and Kendall George, they haven't been to AA yet. Okay? At this point, they are still tools. They are not, you can't say on the field they are guys that you can confidently say these are going to be major leaguers. And then you certainly can't say confidently they're going to be major league all-stars, because you just haven't seen them at a high enough level. So I think because of those factors, that's why the Dodgers don't like to give up young players, because they just don't know how good or not good that they'll eventually be. So they just like to hug those guys, and what they did was they made their major league club and their minor league club better, however, on the margins it may be, at the trade deadline, and that's the way they chose to approach it. I've stated many times I disagree with it, and to this point they still haven't got a bump. Hopefully they do at some point and I get proven wrong, but that has not happened yet. Hey, Showtime LA, I hear the frustration, absolutely, but Yamamoto has made every start, been one of our only healthy starters. I can't criticize him. I can about last night's start. The Dodgers needed him to come through, and he absolutely didn't. Whenever you are paid to so here's where my criticism comes, Showtime. It's not that he had a bad start. It's that he went nuclear, okay? He did not give his team a chance. When you're an ace, you have to give your team a chance every single time you go out there. You just can't go nuclear, and you certainly can't go nuclear at this point in the season when the team needed you so much. So, having said that, it's one start. The Dodgers can recover. Hopefully Yamamoto is better the next time out, and all will be well, and the Dodgers can keep their lead against the Padres. Lucy Chen, I do feel like Yamamoto pitches better when pairing with rushing. Smith's calling can be too predictable. Hey, Bob Student 10, thank you, Casey, but ump made game very frustrating. Again, I don't disagree with you at all, Bob Student 10. I don't mean to be argumentative, but if you were getting paid the amount of money that Yamamoto is getting paid, you can't blame it on the umpire. Even if the umpire is bad, you have to be good enough to figure out a way, like Soriano did, to get through the game, and we will get through. Again, you don't have to get through the game and be perfect. This is kind of my point to Showtime LA's point here. He didn't have to be perfect. Give up 3 runs. Give up 2 runs. Don't give up 6 and bury your team like happened last night. That's what my frustration is. Hey, NS, you still can't win without offense. Totally agree. Soriano shut down the lineup, 4 hits. Dodgers did not have a runner in scoring position until the 7th inning. Offense needs to do better. So, NS, this brings me to my talk about the offense. The Dodgers have all of those, a lot of lift in their swings. I've talked about the lift in Mookie Betts' swing. So whenever you have lift in your swing, there's a couple ways to beat that. You can beat that at the top of the zone with the high riding four seams, just at the very top. But it's dangerous because if you miss, that's a home run. So the safest way to beat a upward plane swinging team is to throw pitches down in the zone, and certainly pitches down the zone that have movement. So that's what Soriano did all night last night. He kept the ball down in the zone. It's as old school as it gets. Movement and keep the ball low. Keep the ball down in the zone and let your movement beat hitters. It's as old as time. So it sounds easy. Just, hey, let's throw a bunch of sinkers at the bottom of the zone. Let's let the Dodgers swing up the ball all night long, and let's get out after out after out after out. Let's make this thing easy. Let's make it stress-free, and that's exactly what happened last night. Sounds easy. It looked easy last night, but at some point, it's hard to execute. Not every pitcher can go out and say, you know what, I'm just going to nail the bottom of the zone. I'm going to have 19 inches of a deuce break on my ball. So not only is the ball going to be at the bottom of the zone and thrown to spots that are thrown to safety, I'm also going to have movement, so I'm going to move away from barrels. So not only is it going to be hard to begin with to get the ball up in the air, it's also going to be hard to get it on the barrel. So you're going to be talking about a bunch of weak hit balls that are hit on the ground. That's the idea of throwing the sinker down the zone. Again, easy game plan to conceive. Much, much, much more difficult to execute, to continue to hit the bottom of the zone with movement. So because last night the game plan for the Dodgers, got to see the sinker up. It's like that good changeup. You've heard me say this a million times. Got to see it up. Got to see the pitch up. If you don't, you're going to bang the thing in the ground. You're going to be making easy outs all night long, okay? So the Dodgers' game plan was to see the sinker up, and Laureano just didn't give in. He just kept throwing that sinker to the bottom of the zone. The Dodgers kept trying to see the sinker up, and because of that, something had to give. Either Soriano was going to start making mistakes or not throwing strikes, and he was going to have to lift the sinker up in the zone where the Dodgers could hit it, or the Dodgers were going to suck. And to the Dodgers' chagrin, to our demise, the latter happened. The Dodgers just sucked, point blank. I mean, there is no other way to put it. I'm not going to sugarcoat it. They sucked on offense. But it was because Soriano, now, yes, the Dodgers have been terrible since the beginning of July, no doubt. But and a lot of last night was because, again, the Dodgers just had a night where they weren't good on offense. But the biggest part of last night was just Soriano just throwing that kryptonite at the Dodgers with that lower sinker and then executing it. So I got to give Soriano a ton of credit for how he pitched last night. So you kind of went from a series to where you felt like you just had base runners everywhere. You had the bases loaded. You stranded them. You weren't hitting with runners in scoring position. You were squandering scoring opportunities to just absolutely nada. I mean, nothing, which was last night. So you kind of went from one extreme to the other. As NS is saying here, how many times have the bases been juiced in the last few games for the offense to fail with runners in scoring position? Yes, no doubt about that. Plenty of times. And I'm going to put, here is the link to the chat. If you want to come in and talk on the show, click that link and I will get you on. Eric Campos, thank you so much for joining. If the Dodgers don't get it together, they're going to find themselves playing in a wild card game at best. Who's to say if they don't get it together, Eric, who's to say they will even make the wild card, right? Because hey man, the National League is loaded. The National League is very, very, very good beyond just the NL West. And so this is a good National League. The Dodgers have got to get their crap together or they will not last long. There are a bunch of good teams in the National League. Let me scroll back up here and see if I can get some more of this talk. Hey, we have a question. Do you think the Dodgers will win tomorrow or today? I think the Dodgers are going to win every time out. They have Victor Medeiros. Victor Medeiros went to Oklahoma State for a year. I know Victor very well. I've worked Oklahoma State baseball camps with him. I got to see every one of his starts at OSU. I know a lot about Victor Medeiros, and he is an electric pitcher, but just inconsistent. We'll get into him here in a little bit. But I do think they will bounce back today. I think this is a game that the Dodgers, I think their manager, Dave Roberts, has put the sense of urgency into the press conferences. And I think if you listen to Max Muncy last night, I think Max Muncy, you could hear the frustration in his voice. You could hear the sense of urgency in his voice. And so tonight, when you look at Victor Medeiros going for the Angels, he's a guy that can throw at 97, 98. He can bump 100. He has electric off-speed stuff. It's not in the zone very often, though. So he started at the University of Miami. He transferred to OSU, had a really good year, 1 year at Oklahoma State. Great dude, super competitive. He got drafted by the Angels, came out of the gate really good with the Angels, and then just struggled to no end. Ended up going back down to Double-A. He was on the dev list for a while. So he's made his way back, and his deal's all about execution. Medeiros, I'm telling you, he has an electric right arm. If he's executing, tonight will be a very difficult game for the Dodgers. But I think Emmett Sheehan going for L.A., it's going to be a big game for Emmett, no doubt about that. I think he has a chance to ride and run the Angels and get a lot of swing and miss tonight. We will see how that goes, but a huge outing for Sheehan. So I think the Dodgers offensively will have I think they have a lot of kryptonite for what Victor does. Victor struggles to execute over and over and over and over and over. So what he feasts off of is teams realizing how electric his stuff is. So trying to maybe hit the ball early in the count and getting a lot of quick outs to where he doesn't have to execute 5, 6 to 7 pitches to each hitter. The Dodgers will be the kryptonite to that because they will work Victor Medeiros. So I'll say this. If the Dodgers make Victor Medeiros work, if they're not afraid to get to 2 strikes, if they're not afraid to get deep into counts, they will work Victor Medeiros into making mistakes and or walking some guys. And from that game plan, the Dodgers should win this game. That's where I'm at, having seen Victor. I love Victor. He was just, whenever I got to talk to him at length, working baseball camps with him, he is just a wonderful young man. Always knew he is going to be a major leaguer. Still in that process of mastering the execution piece. And kind of what I'm trying to say is I'm not trying to criticize Victor or saying he's not good. I don't mean that at all. I'm trying to say that the Dodgers typically are not a good team when you're still trying to master the execution piece. So I think if the Dodgers force him to execute, don't give him some easy outs that he shouldn't get like you did the other night. Don't swing at ball 4 and ball 5. I think everything should be okay. Hey, Showtime LA, absolutely. I hear you on Tibbs. He has to prove it, but like most Dodger prospects, has all the tools in the world. No doubt about it. Hey, Mixie Filks, thank you so much for joining. Freeland is our future third baseman, but he's not ready. No extra base hits. Back to OKC. The Dodgers fans always want to know why the Dodgers prospects don't perform very well, because 3 games ago he was hitting .333. So you have a young guy who's playing out of position. You give him 3 games to struggle, and you want him sent back to AAA Oklahoma City. So if that's your mentality with prospects, that after 3 games you want to immediately send him back to OKC and not give him runway, okay, then don't bring him up to begin with, because that is such a ridiculously small runway. It's not. I mean, what you do in that moment is you put players in such results-based situations. They press. There's no way they can perform under those circumstances. So that's probably the biggest frustration I have with Dodgers fans, is that they want the prospects to come up. And then they have 3 bad games and it's time to ship their ass back to OKC, which is fine, okay? But if that's your idea, then just go get another veteran. Let the veteran have that role, where if they struggle in 3 games, we want their ass gone. Not a prospect who's trying to play a whole new position that they hadn't even played all year long, and trying to incorporate into a major league team and feeling like if they go 0 for 2 in a couple of games back to back, they're getting shipped back to Oklahoma City. So if you want to have that type of runway with the prospects, then trade them away, and trade them away for veterans that Dodgers fans will be happy with. Because again, if you're just gonna, and I understand you're saying that the Freeland's the third baseman of the future, but if every 3 games he's playing bad, you want to ship him back to Oklahoma City, then how is he ever going to have a future? Because every time he struggles, he's going to press. Everybody has a bad 3 games. So that's kind of my frustration. That's very, very typical of how the Dodgers view their prospects, just with very little patience whatsoever. And it's also why prospects just don't typically reach their potential at the major league level, because there's just such ridiculously unrealistic expectations based on the amount of runway they get. I'm going to go back to Barger with Toronto, okay? He was hitting about $130 through his first 190 at-bats. They stuck with him, and now he's a good player, okay? After 9 at-bats, we're wanting to ship one of our biggest prospects in the system back to Oklahoma City. That is a situation that just does not create an environment that allows your young players to develop in the way that they are supposed to. Hey, Showtime, Major Leaguers struggle. Freeland is probably a better option than Kim. He should stay up. Nick S., I agree with that. If Shohei can't work up to 6 innings and the bullpen continues to struggle, would it be better to use him out of the pen? Here's the problem with using Shohei Ohtani out of the pen. He would have to be the last pitcher you threw. And you can't ever guarantee that he's the last pitcher you throw, because like the other day, you gave up the lead. You had already inserted Justin Dean in the game, because if Ohtani leaves the game, so as a starting pitcher, he can be both the pitcher and the DH. But if he comes in the middle of a game, then as soon as he leaves, at that point, you lose the DH. So Shohei Ohtani either has to go to the field or Shohei Ohtani has to come out of the game. So there's only two real logistical options for Shohei Ohtani as a pitcher, and that is to be the first pitcher of the game or the last pitcher of the game, because if he comes in the 5th or 6th inning and then he only throws 1 inning or whatever it may be, or 2 innings, then he comes out of the game. Either he's playing left field or he's on the bench, and nobody wants Shohei Ohtani on the bench. So that's the logistical problem with moving Shohei Ohtani to the bullpen, is because what do you do with him after he comes out? So a short start in the playoffs would just put more work on the bullpen, but it would keep him in the game as an offensive player. Whereas if you piggybacked him, brought him in the 3rd and threw him safe for the 3rd, 4th, and 5th, now you don't have Shohei Ohtani for the 6th, 7th, 8th, and 9th as a hitter, or he's playing left field, a position, and he hasn't played a position all year. So that's the problem you have there. Hey, the stats aren't even close, plus Kim can steal a base or two. Mixie Flicks is talking, I think, the difference between Hae-Sung Kim and Alex Freeland. Alex Freeland is a very good athlete, by the way. Mixie Flicks, you have not done your homework on Alex Freeland. Alex Freeland has stolen over 30 bases in the last 2 years. So I will push back on that. You need to do a little bit more homework before you start wanting Alex Freeland to get sent back to AAA after 3 bad games, when 3 games ago he was hitting .333 at the major league level. Tracy Calvillo, what do we think about Mookie in right? I want Mookie Betts at second base. Yesterday, Dave said that was a Mookie Betts deal, and that was because this is another deal where Dave always goes with veteran over rookie. Dave went with Rojas over Dean and Dave used the reason that he felt like Rojas had a better chance to get on base. Okay, whatever. How would he know? He's never seen Justin Dean hit, okay? And if you never let him hit, then how will you ever know? So he went track record over no track record, veteran over, well, I guess 28-year-old rookie. That was the decision there. And so once that happened, Mookie needed to go. It was just a situation to where somebody had to go to the outfield because Dean came out of the game. And that one person, Mookie Betts, actually volunteered to go out to right field because somebody had to. So I think that was a one-off. I don't think that's anything to read into. If the Dodgers moved Mookie Betts anywhere, I've said this and been very consistent with it, I would choose second base. I think second base is the perfect trade-off. Hey, CNAB, if you're thinking Ohtani is a reliever, what if he's on base and you want him to come in relief? How does he warm up? Again, I'm going to say it. If he comes in and throws 2 innings in the middle of the game, what do you do with him after he's done with relief? Because you're getting ready to lose the DH, because as a starter, he can be the starting pitcher and the DH, which means after he comes out of the game as a pitcher, he remains at the DH, okay? But if he comes into the game in the middle of the game, then once he leaves the game, you either lose the DH, so he either comes out of the game or he has to go play a position, okay? Because you no longer have the DH at that point, because you can't have Ohtani at that situation. So that's the problem logistically as Ohtani as a reliever. Showtime LA, Mookie was 2 for 22 the last two postseasons prior to last year. Such a small sample size. Freeland has 30 at-bats. We need at least 150 to 250 at-bats to evaluate a guy. Thank you. That was my problem with James Outman last year. It was less than 100 at-bats, and he was already thrown out to the Wolves. And then from there, from that super small sample size, it was 4 or 5 at-bats at a time here, 4 or 5 at-bats at a time there. So hopefully he gets with Minnesota, he gets consistent playing time, and he gets to be the James Outman he's capable of being. I think that's also going to be the problem with Alex Call. That's why we've seen him. He was having a great year coming to the Dodgers. Now he's not hitting well with the Dodgers. Do you want to ship Alex Call back out? He's hitting 133. Do you still want Alex Call on your team? So that's kind of my point. It's very difficult to not know when your next at-bats are coming and to not get consistent at-bats and still be the best version of yourself. No doubt about it. Hey, Mixie Flick says it's August Carson in. Trade them for prospects with potential, hope, and Sirota. That's Mixie Flick's comment. Hey, we have some comments on the TikTok side. Dodge, thank you so much for the wonderful comments coming in on the TikTok side. We have some great activity on TikTok. We need the world champ. We're not going to talk about him. I actually don't know if he's playing again. But we have a comment from a user 3081. Padres are going to win the NL. We'll see. It's going to come down to the next 2 weeks, I think. Hey, Dodge, Freeland is going to be a serviceable major league player, but never a star. That's a pretty good evaluation to make after he's played however many different games, when he's stolen over 30 bases in the last couple of years. It's just interesting to me how people can come up with conclusions after watching a guy try to survive at the major league level with inconsistent playing time after 30 at-bats. That's wow. I mean, it's amazing to me that how impatient Dodgers fans are with their evaluations of the young guys. Then they want to complain, well, why don't our young guys ever perform? But then after 30 games, we want to tag a guy as, oh, he's okay. Never going to be all that great, but he's okay. Yeah, let's send him back to OKC, but yet we expect them to be great from the time they get there. And if they are great at the beginning and then struggle for 3 or 4 games, then we want to ship them back. But yet we want them to be the best version of themselves, and that's just not how it works. So that's just kind of my frustration there. I don't mean to be firing bullets at any one particular user. I appreciate everybody that's in the chat being here, but that's just coming from my perspective as far as how you actually have to, if you want to get the best version of somebody, you actually have to make them feel comfortable. Hey, Severin Sound Artist, thank you so much for joining. Just got here. Has Conforto been DFA'd yet? No. Hey, Mixie Flicks to send Kim to Oklahoma City. Isn't he a prospect too? Kim does have minor league options. It'll be interesting to see which way the Dodgers go. If you did ask me at this point which one would stay, which one would go between Kim and Alex Freeland, I would readily admit I think it would be Kim, and I think that's because of the profile. He can also play outfield. Like last night, you wouldn't have had to move Mookie Betts to right field. Ha-Seong Kim could have played that role. So I think it's the versatility of what Kim can do that would probably win out in that situation over Alex Freeland, although Freeland can play third base too, so it'd be interesting to see what would happen there. Hey, and also Showtime LA is saying we don't know if Edman is going to be healthy. Kim is coming back from a shoulder surgery, which the Dodgers, they know all about the arm injuries. The shoulder surgeries are very tough to judge here. Hey, Crash says Freeland is really good. Dodge says Freeland is average, and I will say that Dodge is maybe the best scout that I have ever seen to be able to say that after watching 30 at-bats of a major league debut from Alex Freeland. And I'm not saying one way or the other. I'm just saying you can't really even make an evaluation like Showtime LA was saying until after a couple hundred at-bats. Hey, Tark the Shark says Freeland brings youth and speed. DFA Conforto, the DFA Chris Taylor. Conforto is left-handed. Chris is a left-handed Chris Taylor. That's not, I would not have any pushback to that. Plus, Michael Conforto, I think it's a weird fit defensively with him. I think that's another problem you have there. Aside from being a starting pitcher, Ohtani will may serve as a closer in a Walker Buehler type of World Series situation. Not a relief. Yes, he has to be at least either the first pitcher or the last pitcher so you don't lose him as an offensive player. Mr. Classic, Freeland is better than rushing. He's been thrown into MLB without a spring training like Pages. Agreed with that. Yo, maybe Conforto needs a pair of glasses like Muncy. Anthony DeSantis. Hey, thank you so much for joining, Anthony. I really appreciate it every time you join. Alex Freeland can play 3 positions, and I believe he has more power. He's fast, and he is hungry. Hey, let's see. Anthony DeSantis, we need Alex Freeland on this team right now. Speed is defense. He's hungry. I just want him to go back to taking the bats and taking pitches like he did when he first came up. Hey, Jay Pano, thank you so much for joining. Also, he's one of the best starting pitchers in the entire league, talking about Shohei Ohtani. Why would you change that? I agree with that. So more notes from last night. Yoshinobu Yamamoto, 4-seam, average exit velo over 100 miles an hour. The splitter just didn't land. The few that did got hit like the Mike Trout hit. And then the curveball was probably his best pitch, but he did give up 3 hits on the curveball. So here's kind of my narrative on the Dodgers right now, where when it rains, it pours. So like whenever you're struggling, what you do is you sit down and you go, okay, well, what are we doing well? What types of things can we hang our hat on to where we say, okay, well, at least we're doing this. So we are doing this well. So let's build around this part of the game that we're doing well. So coming into last night, that one thing you could hang your hat on was your starting pitching. So you're like, well, okay, the bullpen's been leaky. The offense hasn't been good. The defense has had some bad games, but at least we've had good starting pitching. So where the complete cluster bomb comes in this entire thing is the one thing that you really felt like you could build around, and I still do think the Dodgers will be able to build around their starting pitching, because I think last night was just a one-off. As hard as I was on Yamamoto, I want everybody to be that hard on Yamamoto. I don't want anybody to make excuses for him. Hey, the lack of run support, fine. I don't care, okay? We're paying him jillions of dollars. He needs to go out and be whatever run support he gets. He needs to go out and figure out a way to win. He is paid to go out and beat whatever amount of run support he gets, or at least tie it if he doesn't get any. That's what he's not paid to go out there and give up 3 runs. That's not what he was brought here to do. He was brought here to be an ace, and part of being an ace is dealing with all the shit burgers you're given, figuring out a way to beat them and win at whatever the game is that's been given to you that night. I want everybody to have those expectations. I want everybody to hold him to those standards, period. End of discussion. That's it. No gray area, nothing. Because unless you do, you're not going to get the best version of Yoshinobu Yamamoto, in my opinion, okay? So having said that, I personally think this is a one-off. I still think starting pitching is the one thing that the Dodgers can hang their hat on this point and build around. But kind of the way that you start feeling like it's a cluster bomb is like you go into the clubhouse last night after losing a terrible game, okay? And kind of your thought is, well, damn, we can't even do the one thing I thought we could hang our hat on, which is starting pitching. That throws it into a whole different dimension in terms of frustration and desperation and despair and all of those types of emotions, because you're like, okay, well, now what do we hang our hat on? We're not hitting the ball. No, our bullpen last night was good. Anthony Bonda was good. And so that's kind of been up and down. So that's kind of the helplessness feeling of last night is the one thing that you could hang your hat on actually let you down. And talk about hanging your hat. The reason why the one guy that was able to hit Soriano hard last night, I was actually talking about this with Coach Holt. So when Will Smith got into the system, when he was at Louisville, let me actually check Instagram and see if we have any comments on Instagram. Hey, W. Bassick, thank you so much for joining. By the time it's August 25th, who will be in first place in the NL West? I am going to town. I am always going to bet on the Dodgers. I will never bet against the Dodgers. Can't even win rigged games, says Double G. I'm not exactly sure what that means. Hey, Drew JMC on the TikTok side, preseason prediction, him to be Cy Young. I'm not exactly sure who we're talking about there. W. Bassick, could we see the Dodgers miss the playoffs based? They easily could. Not easily could, but they could. There is a scenario where the Dodgers do miss the playoffs. I don't see that happening, but that scenario is definitely out there, 100%. And keep leaving comments because then TikTok will see that as being active, and we will not get kicked off. So Will Smith, in college, he had more of a downward end to his swing. So when he got to the pros, they gave him that right there. Okay? And so now he was, because he was really a low line drive type of hitter at Louisville. Even when you watched him take BP, I mean, he was snapping that top hand. The ball would come out low and it'd come out about 105 miles an hour. And he would be able to pepper left center to right center. He'd be able to pepper base hits and that kind of thing. And then the Dodgers gave him a little bit of lift in his swing, that Justin Turner effect. Now he's still hitting the same line drives, but they're in the air instead of on the ground. Now he's hitting home runs. It's been great for Will Smith. But every once in a while, Will Smith will hit a patch like he had been. I think he was like 1 for his last 13, something like that. And I told Coach Holt, I said, you watch Will Smith. I watched him enough at Louisville. Every time he goes in a patch, he goes back to his college swing, meaning he's going to flatten it out. He's going to be a little bit flatter through contact instead of lifting through contact at the front of the zone. You know, I was talking about down the back, flat in the middle, up in front. So what Will Smith will do is he'll go down and back, flat in the middle like he always has. But instead of up in front, what he'll do is he'll stay flat in front. And I said, Coach Hull, watch this. He's going to stay flat in front. He's going to hit a two-hopper at about 105 miles an hour, and he's going to get him a base hit because he's going to go back to his roots, which was his college swing. You can ask Coach Holt. I swear to God, I was at his house last night at 8:30, and we had this exact conversation. I said, probably first or second at bat, this is what's getting ready to happen. Sure as heck, he hits the ball off the pitcher's leg. It was the college swing. He was flat in front. He was just thinking, hit the ball hard. And because of that, that type of approach is able to get to that sinker down in the zone. So I wanted to give Will Smith credit for making a tremendous adjustment last night to get a hit on the board there. But beyond that, just give Soriano credit. And also, Mookie Betts had a base hit too. He's been hitting .367 in his last 7 games, OPS of 939. So yes, there are some things that aren't just, completely off the rails. Mookie Betts has been better. Shohei Ohtani has been fantastic. Freddie Freeman has been a lot better. Looks to me like Will Smith was coming out of it last night. Max Muncy has really just kind of come back the way that he left. I think the starting pitching is something you can hang your hat on. And then the bullpen has been good at times, okay? So there are some things that would suggest that the Dodgers will get out of this. But how long have we been saying this? I mean, we've been saying it for a while. That doesn't mean that they will. Hey, CNAS says if we were winning, I believe you'd have a different take. I don't know if he's talking to me or if he's talking to another person in the chat. We'd still be first place and have a ton of talent on the roster to carry. Yes, talking about the rookies, no doubt. Hey, Mixie Phillips says give prospects time, but not in freaking August. Hey, and I can live with that. I can totally live with that. That's a very rational take. That, hey, we have a 1-game lead on the Padres. The time to give the runway to Alex Freeland was freaking April, okay? I love that take. That is money right there. Not when you have a 1-game lead on the Padres and you're way out of process mode. You're in results mode now. Now's not the time to experiment with a rookie. I can live with that every day, twice on Sundays, Mixie Phillips. That is an absolutely awesome take there. And a great compromise between the conversation we're having here. Anthony DeSantis, when a guy has speed and plays defense, it allows you to get a good sample size from him, and that's what Alex has. I agree. He's also hungry. He should not go anywhere. CNAV, the prospects we're bringing up and making the biggest jump in baseball, it is. From a mental and physical perspective, you've got to give them time to adjust. They're not drafted, move up the system, and promoted to the big club because they suck. Elite takes, CNAV. Absolutely elite. Hey, maybe Yama should have been kept on his regular schedule. Again, this is why the Dodgers Dawgs is part of the Dodgers Daily Network. Not the biggest, absolute smartest baseball fans on earth. Okay, Milksy Philks, Chuck, CNAV, everybody in this chat, go back through and read this. This is just elite conversation. Disagreements, different points of view. Everything is intelligent. Everything is respectful. I love it every single time I get a chance to go live and talk to you wonderful Dodgers dogs out there. This is just an incredible chat that we're having here. 100%. Thank you so much for everybody for joining. On the TikTok side, W. Bassett, Crash, Dodge, Double G, Drew, thank you so much for joining. This has been a lot of fun. Hey, so I'm going to get to some of the TikTok chat here. Hey, do buys for teams in the playoffs really guarantee they'll go far? It could guarantee the opposite because you have to wait for so long. I mean, that's been the big debate. I think at this point there's evidence both sides, and it's totally inconclusive whether that layoff actually helps or doesn't. I think it is conclusive that you do. I know Jay was mentioning this the other day, that having the home field advantage, that usually is a big deal. So not all the time, but I think at all costs you want to. Having said that, if there's a choice between wild card and winning your division, Andrew Friedman's made it clear the Dodgers are always going to choose winning the division. I would always choose winning the division and just dealing with the layoff, because even though it doesn't always happen, do you really want to have more games in Philadelphia or in New York than you have in Los Angeles? I do think that part of it is a big deal. Hey, Mark Talkington won the World Series last year with Barnes and Taylor. The team will be fine. I don't disagree with that. And we have a comment here about Dave Roberts needs to go. Ricardo Esker. Dave Roberts won a World Series last year. He won one in 2020. He is going to be a Hall of Fame manager. Again, I'm going to say this again. You can disagree with some of the things he does. Sometimes too analytical. Sometimes maybe a little bit too big picture, this and that. But just go and compare his record to the Hall of Fame managers, and they're identical. And the same Hall of Fame managers that you'd be comparing him to also had the talent advantage that he has. Dave Roberts won a World Series last year. He's had 41 different pitchers he had to throw, however many it is this year, that he's had to throw, and his team is still in first place. And Dodgers fans want him fired. How can you do better than winning a World Series and being in first place the very next year? Especially considering that you haven't had all of your bullets. What else could Dave Roberts do, would be my question. What more do you want from him? With all of the injuries the Dodgers have had, Max Muncy, Mookie Betts was injured at the beginning of the year. Freddie Freeman hasn't been healthy. You've lost basically your entire rotation, okay? He won the World Series last year with a stripped-down roster. They had to win a bullpen game to win it. They're in first place this year. He's not been anything but first place for the last 2 years, and Dodgers fans want Dave Roberts to go. That's an opinion. That's about all I can say about that, and you're definitely entitled to your own opinion. But I guess, again, I'm going to ask the question, how can you do better than first place, which is what the Dodgers have been in the last 2 years with a lot of health burgers to deal with? So, hey, yes, definitely hit that like button. Thank you so much for posting that, Chuck Huddleston. Absolute rock star. Ohtani should be batting fourth, says Crash. That's not a bad idea. Hey, W. Bassick, thoughts on the Padres bullpen, and does that definitely give the advantage? I think the Padres being aggressive at the trade deadline, definitely, I wouldn't say advantage, okay? I still think if the Dodgers play their A game, which they haven't done in a while, second game of the Toronto series, I think, was an A game for the Dodgers. If the Dodgers play their A game and the Padres play their A game, I think the Dodgers win. So when you say advantage, I say no. Dodgers still have the advantage. I don't care about I still think the Dodgers are the better team if both teams play their A game. So I won't say the advantage, W. Bassig, but I'll tell you this. If the Dodgers play anything less than their A game against the Padres, and the Padres play their A game, they're getting their asses kicked. The Padres are, if the Dodgers actually do have a better roster at this moment, it's not by much. It's slim. It's a slim margin. Hey, Anthony says, Roberts has done a remarkable job with all the pitching injuries. Totally agree. Hey, Crash says, why do we need Ohtani to hit solo shots? I don't disagree, and I was getting ready actually to go through the strikeouts with Ohtani. Then I look back, just look at his batting average. I mean, matter of fact, actually, let me get to it here. Let me type this up. I was getting ready to go on that page, Anthony, about all of the solo home runs and bats beyond that. That's literally a narrative I was going to go with on Shohei Ohtani about that. But how about this? Last 7 games, Shohei Ohtani is hitting .444. Last 7 games, Shohei Ohtani's slugging percentage, not OPS, slugging percentage is .986. Last 15 games, Shohei Ohtani is hitting .356 with a slugging percentage of .678 and an OPS of over 1,200. That's 15 games. So I actually thought Ohtani was kind of struggling. And then when I saw it, I was like, damn, what have I been watching? I'm a dumbass. That's kind of how I looked at that. Like, I could not have been any more wrong other than that. Now, if you want to make the case that he has not come up with the big hits, I think the comment here from Anthony is kind of alluding to, it's been kind of empty because like last night was kind of like an empty home run. I can't disagree with you there. Runner at first base, he's hitting .083. Runner at second, he's actually been pretty good, .286. Runner at third, actually his batting average, this is Shohei Ohtani right here for 2025. With a runner at third, he's hitting 1,000 here, okay? So the in scoring position type stats haven't always looked great for him. These splits look weird to me. Don't quote me. I'm actually on his stat sheet right now, but these stats look really weird. So let me go ahead. Actually, let me see. No, this is pitching. Duh. Okay, that looked weird to me. So let me actually, right here, career. Let me get to batting. I'm sorry. So just erase what I just got through saying right there. Okay, so with runners at first base, he's hitting .083. Runners at that's the same stats. I'm going to go ahead and move on from that because I'm by myself. I don't have time to go through that. Anthony DeSantis, thanks for that, Casey. Great description on Will Smith. He really shortens that swing and leaves the barrel in the zone for a long time. I don't think he needs a hitting coach at the big league level. Hey, Chuck Ellison, I love Dave Roberts, but I want him to get better at game management, especially pitching and changing decisions. Grow and get better. That is totally fair, Chuck. Totally fair. And I can tell you this, every single fan base, the biggest complaint they have of their manager is that he doesn't know when to take out or leave in a pitcher. That's because it's so unscientific. I blame Skoyak more for the offense sucking and Pryor for suggesting the wrong bullpen guys to Dave. That's a fair point. Hey, Multiflix, that could be Friedman call on some of the decision. One thing Dave could do is tell the front office to get rid of Conforto. I think he could say that, but I think that definitely would be a front office call. So, hey, this has been a lot of fun on the chat today. We are at a little over an hour, and so that's going to do it for me today. I want to thank everybody for tuning in, allowing me to spew some of my venom, get some of my frustration out. I hope you enjoyed today's show, and I hope this was as therapeutic for you as it was for me. So thank you again for tuning in, and as always, it's a great day to be a Dodger.